Welcome back, everybody. This is Brian Kirk with Eat to My Own Beat, taking the road less traveled with another episode of Disputed Countries or Regions. This one we are going to the North American side, and it's a British territory called Anguilla. Anguilla is a British overseas territory in the Caribbean. It's one of the most northerly of the Leeward Islands in the Lesser Antilles, lying east of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and directly north of St. Martin. The territory consists of the main island of Anguilla, approximately 16 miles or 26 kilometers long by 3 miles or 5 kilometers wide at its widest point, together with a number of much smaller islands and cays with no permanent population. The territory capital is the Valley. The total land area of the territory is 35 square miles or 91 kilometers square, with a population of approximately 15,753 in 2021. Etymology. The native Arawak name for the island is Maluana. Its reference to the island's shape, the Italian Anguilla, meaning eel, in turn from the Latin diminutive or of Anguillus or snake, was used as its name. Anguilla was first settled by indigenous Amerindian peoples who migrated from South America. The earliest Native American artifacts found in Anguilla have been dated to around 1300 BC. Remains of the settlement date from AD 600. There are 2 known petroglyph sites in Anguilla: Big Spring and Fountain Cavern. The rock ledges of Big Spring contain over 1,000 petroglyphs dating back from AD 600 to 1200, the majority consisting of 3 indentations in the form faces. Precisely when Anguilla was first seen by Europeans is uncertain. Some sources claim that Columbus sighted the island during a second voyage in 1493, while others state that the first European explorer was the French Huguenot nobleman, the merchant René Guyon de Landière, in 1564. The Dutch West India Company establishes a fort on the island in 1631. However, the company later withdrew after its fort was destroyed by the Spanish in 1633. Traditional accounts state that the Anguilla was first colonized by the English settlers from St. Kitts beginning in 1650. The settlers focused on planting tobacco and, lesser extent, cotton. The French temporarily took over the island in 1666, but returned it to the English under the control of the terms of the Treaty of Breda the next year. Major John Scott who visited in September 1667, wrote leaving the island in good condition and noted that in 1668, 200 or 300 people fled thither in the time of war. The French attacked again in 1688, 1745, and 1798, causing much destruction but failing to capture the island. It is likely that the early European settlers brought enslaved Africans with them. Historians confirm that African slaves lived in the region in the early 17th century, such as the slaves of Senegal living on St. Kitts in the mid-1600s. By 1672, a slave depot existed on the island of Nevis, serving the Leeward Islands. While the time of African arrival in Anguilla is difficult to place precisely, archival evidence indicates the substantial African presence of at least 100 enslaved peoples by 1683. These seem to have come from Central Africa as well as West Africa. The slaves were forced to work on sugar plantations, which had begun to replace tobacco as Anguilla's main crop. Over time, African slaves and their descendants came to vastly outnumber the white settlers. The African slave trade was eventually terminated within the British Empire in 1807, and the slavery outlawed completely in 1834. Many planters subsequently sold up and left the island. During the early colonial period, Anguilla was administered by the British through Antigua. In 1825, it was placed under the administrative control of nearby St. Kitts. Anguilla was federated with St. Kitts and Nevis in 1882, against the wishes of many Anguillans. Economic stagnation and severe effects of several droughts in the 1890s and later the Great Depression of the 1930s led many Anguillans to emigrate for better prospects elsewhere. Full adult suffrage was introduced in Anguilla in 1952, after a brief period as part of the West Indies Federation from 1958 to 1962. The islands of Anguilla became part of the associated state of St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla for fully internal autonomy in 1967. However, many Anguillans have no wish to be part of this union and resented the dominance of St. Kitts within it. On 30th of May 1967, Anguillans forcibly ejected the St. Kitts police force from the island and declared their separation from St. Kitts following a referendum. The events led to Attilan Harrigan, and Ronald Webster, among others, became known as the Anguillan Revolution. Its goal was not independence per se, but rather independence from St. Kitts and Nevis and a return to being a British colony. With negotiations failing to break the deadlock, a second referendum confirming Anguillans' desire to separate from St. Kitts was held. The Republic of Anguilla was declared unilaterally, with Ronald Webster as president. Efforts by British envoy William Whitlock failed to break the impasse, and 300 British troops were subsequently sent in March of 1969. British authority was restored and confirmed by an Anguillan Act of 1971. In 1980, the Anguilla was finally allowed to formally secede from St. Kitts and Nevis and become a separate British colony, now a British overseas territory. Since then, Anguilla has been politically stable and has seen a large growth in tourism and offshore financing sectors. Geography and geology. Anguilla is a flat, low-lying island of the coral and limestone in the Caribbean Sea, measuring some 16 miles or 26 kilometers long and 3.5 miles or 6 kilometers in width. It lies east of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and directly across St. Martin, separated from the island of Anguilla Channel. The soil is generally thin and poor, sporting scrub, tropical and forest vegetation. The terrain is generally low-lying, and the highest terrain located in the vicinity of the valley, Crocus Hill, Anguilla's highest point, which is 240 feet or 73 meters, lies in the western regions of the town. Anguilla is noted for its ecology important coral reefs and beaches. Apart from the main island of Anguilla itself, the territory includes a number of smaller islands and keys, most tiny and uninhabited. Anguillita, Blowing Rock, Dog Island, Little Scrub Island, Prickly Pears Keys, Scrub Island, Seal Island, Sombrero, or also known as Hat Island, Sandy Island, and Sicily Cay. It is political system. Anguilla is an internally self-governing overseas territory of the United Kingdom. Its politics take place in the framework of parliamentary representative democratic dependency, whereby the premier is the head of the government, and pluriform party system. Try this again. The United Nations Committee of Decolonization includes Anguilla on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories. The territory's constitution in Anguilla, Constitutional Order, 1st of April 1982, amended in 1990. Executive power is exercised by the government, with legislative power being vested in both government and the House of Assembly. The judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. So that was a little bit about the non-UN recognized Anguilla. So until next time, keep eating your own beef, take the road less traveled, and have a great day.